Recently, Evolution sent me their Rage 3 sliding compound mitre saw to try out. So today I want to make a simple project that will be predominantly on the saw without using too many other tools. I've just sorted through the pallet wood that I have, and I've got a real mixture of stuff, unfortunately. So now I'm just having a think about what I can make from the pieces that I've got. I've decided to make a simple wine rack out of the bits of pallet wood that I have. I'm going to use the 22mm thick pieces to make the main frame of the rack, and I'm going to use the thinner 18mm thick pieces for the back of the rack. I'm going to start by cutting the centre shelf, and I want that to be 45 centimetres. Next I'll cut the side panels, which need to be 28 centimetres. So now I've got my two side panels and my central shelf. I want the shelf to be supported by a dado joint, and I want that to start 18 centimetres from the top. I'm going to hold up the shelf against that line and scribe another line. So these will be the dado joints that I need to cut out. One of the features I really like about this saw that my other mitre saw doesn't have is that it's got a depth stop feature. So currently the blade is set to cut at its full depth, but by adjusting this knob you can change it so that the cut doesn't go fully through the board, which is really useful for dado joints. I'm going to set this so that the blade cuts roughly halfway through the board. That looks about right. And now I can cut out those joints. I'm careful to cut on the inside of the line so that I don't cut the slot too big. Now I can clean out those joints with the chisel. So now I can measure up how long I need my top and bottom pieces to be. This measures 48.5 and I want a bit of an overhang, so I think I'll go for 51. That's the top and bottom, side panels and shelf finished. Now I want to check that this shelf is square to the side piece, which it is. And then I can mark up where I want to cut the next dado joints. So it's taken a few tweaks, but all of the dado joints seem to fit pretty well now. A couple of them are tight, but I think with some clamping pressure they'll all go together nicely. It just started to rain, typical British weather for you, so I've relocated to the workshop. I need to cut out the spaces for 4 bottles of wine along this piece here. The distance between the joints is 44 centimetres, and I'll mark up a line at the front. A bottle of wine is 7 centimetres in diameter, So to simplify maths, because I'm not very good at it, I'm going to make each hole 8 centimeters in diameter, and that'll leave me 2 centimeters in between each bottle, which should work out as 44 centimeters, I think. Half of 44 is 22, so I'll mark up that as a center point, and then I'll mark up a centimetre either side of that to give me 2 centimetres in the middle, and then I've set my compass to 4 centimetres in radius, which will give me 8 centimetres in diameter, which will be big enough for the 7 centimetre diameter bottle of wine. Line that up with that mark and the top mark, and scribe a semicircle. And I'll leave another 2 centimetres and do the same again. And now I can just extend these lines.
I used the jigsaw to cut out the holes for the bottles.
I obviously didn't do a very good job measuring this bottle of wine, because while it fits at the bottom, it doesn't fit very well higher up, and these bottles need to come in from the top, and it's a bit too tight, so I'm just going to make these a little bit wider. And I can refine the shapes on the belt sander. So the bottle now fits comfortably in each hole, but I've kind of realised that these parts here are pretty pointless really, so I'm actually going to cut them out into a point. Just going to mark up 5 centimetres on each piece and then join the holes.
I used the bandsaw to cut out the V-shapes.
So now I've worked out the distance that I need in order to hang these wine glasses. Basically it works out that there's 10 centimetres in between the stem of each glass and just under 4 centimetres each side of the rebate joint. So now I can just cut out some slots on the bandsaw. Actually thinking about it, before I cut the slots on the bandsaw, I'm actually going to drill a hole in the centre at each of these points with a small Forstner bit like this one to give me a nice rounded edge to each slot.
I used a 120 grit paper on the random orbit sander to take off the worst of the dirt from the pallet wood. I wanted to leave behind some of the character in the wood, like the saw blade marks and the imperfections. I used a round file to tidy up the slots for the wine glasses. Before gluing up the wine rack, I applied some masking tape next to the dado joints to make cleaning up the glue squeeze out easier. Before making the back for the wine rack, I used a hand plane just to make sure that the pieces were flush with each other at the back so that there wouldn't be any gaps. I scribed a line onto the piece of the pallet wood that I would use for the back, and cut all of the pieces to that length on the mitre saw.
Three pieces of this pallet wood fit pretty nicely on the back. I'm really fed up with this nailer. I basically have to repair it each time I use it. I only paid £6 for it second hand, so it doesn't owe me anything, so it's going in the bin. And I bought this, which hopefully should work a little bit better. Now I can just apply wax to the back panel. I found a wall in my kitchen for this to go. I'm going to attach it with 2 screws through the back panel, and I want the screws to be covered up by where the bottles of wine are. And I'll just make a couple of marks. And I can drill out those holes. Then I can position it on the wall where I want it with a spirit level to make sure that it's straight. Then I'm going to drill through the same holes with a mortar bit. Now I can drill the holes to the proper depth to accommodate these wall plugs. Going to use one of these brass washers on the screw as well. We've only got the 1 bottle of wine in the house at the moment. Wine doesn't last very long in this house. We do have a bottle of rum though.